Well, here we are. Bit overkill, but it'll do. So this is Rosie. This is the name that the van came to me with. It suits it. And the head gasket's gone because, well, I'll show you why in a minute. So I do have a job to fix on it. So much for this being a more convenient option for moving house with than hiring a van. I'm really good at making very sensible choices like that. I'm going to give you a bit of a whirlwind tour of this one just to have a look at what we've got. Haven't got a lot of time today, so I can't get in depth, but I will do some more in-depth things. I've got to find exactly what it is I need to fix on this. It actually drives okay, to be honest with you. Yeah, let's have a better look, and I'll explain why it's done the head gasket. Before I get into what this van is and all the rest of it, because it's a little bit different, let's talk about the engine. I have dealt with this engine before. I used to have a Renault 6 quite a long time ago. You may know the man who facilitated that particular purchase. And I sort of miss it, but also I sort of don't. This car uses the same Cleonfont engine. This is the 1.4, so I think this is the biggest they did for them. And that makes it very good for parts support because they basically made this engine for 3,000 years. The issue is that down here are two wires, and they should be connected to that fan switch there, and they're not. There's no connectors on there, and that meant that the radiator fan didn't come on, and because the radiator fan didn't come on, it got hot, and then it cooked the head gasket which is in there. Now the unfortunate thing is the previous owner did the head gasket on this, put a new water pump on, great, I don't have to, sorted some lovely new hoses out for it, new belts, so a lot of the work's been done very recently. These Renaults, they don't have a temperature gauge. All they have is that. And when that turns into a little red light, you've overheated it. And usually it's too late. As you can see, the mileage is just 76,000, which isn't bad for one of these. And the interior is scruffy. But it's a van, you kind of expect it. I do have this missing bit of trim. I do have the handles for the windows. I'm not sure how savable these are. That's a job on my list. So I've got to get the window winders back on. Flooring is rubber mat because it's a work vehicle. It has a little aftermarket radio. And as you saw earlier, the gear change is, well, that's reverse. That's first or third. But if you go just a little bit too far across, you're in reverse. So it feels almost like there's no lockout between first and reverse. Previous owner did warn me about that. Handbrake cable comes up quite a long way, but that might be normal. It feels like it holds on the brakes. The brakes are pretty good. I mean, what to tell you really? There's blanking plates galore. This thing has nothing, which is just how I like it. Secret cubby. there's no glove box, just a hole. These are the aftermarket winders that were on it, so we'll have to see what we're doing on that front. You know, lovely little cactus air freshener. It's got sun visors, it's got some storage above your head, which is nice. So what makes this van a little bit different is it's not your standard van. For one, it's got these massive windows in the side, which have slidey windows at the top. And it's not a camper, not a micro camper. It is, you know, this is how this van was made. I believe, I don't know which company did it, I'll find out, but I believe this was a conversion by a coach builder. Because, well, in the 80s when this was built, you didn't really have much choice on mobility vehicles. So this was the appeal for me, is that it's a moderately sized van, it's a size of vehicle I'm comfortable driving, it's got really good visibility because of the windows, and it has a little party trick, which are these electrically operated hydraulic rams. That's because this van has been converted to have a wheelchair in the back. That's why there's this little ramp here. So the back of the van actually raises and lowers on a pair of rams, and there should be a little controller that plugs in here, which I don't have, but as far as I'm aware they're fairly standard things. So at some point somebody's disconnected everything and I need to put that all back together. Even if I can't figure that out before house move time, not the end of the world, it's still a van, I can use it as such. No rear seat in this one. The rear seat's actually in somebody else's van that I know through the forum, so hi if you're watching this. And there's some things I haven't investigated. Oh, that's where the spare wheel lives. I was wondering, because another thing with this van is because of the wheelchair conversion, the floor's actually dropped from where it would be normally. And on these, usually it would be underneath here. But you can't do that because of the conversion. It's a very basic machine, which I like. One of the things I do like is that the sills don't need welding. My cars always seem to need sills welding, this one doesn't. But it does need the exhaust sorting out because it's gone a bit explodey. Seats are a nice tough cloth. They would definitely benefit from a shampoo, as is often the case in vehicles like this. But mostly it's actually pretty clean and pretty tidy. You can see the plastics have got the usual sun rot that you get on these kind of cars, but I don't mind, it's fine. And this gives you a slightly better look at the storage up here. Now the front of the car is the same as a Renault 5, but it has this extra bump on the top, presumably for aerodynamics, so you don't just have this big wall here. It just gives you a bit extra storage. We'll see about that. One issue I do have is there is a crack on the windscreen, and you can see there's some rust to deal with there. The rust is fairly standard on these vans, doesn't scare me that much. The crack's a little bit more annoying. Not the end of the world. And this is the other side of the engine. You've got the gearbox here, expansion bottle, tiny radiator. Yeah, it's a bit of a project, but I don't think it's insurmountable. I think it's very doable. So I'm not too concerned. I've got a few months to get this sorted out, and I don't think it's going to take me... Well, I shan't say it. It is chilly.
Anyway, do you think it was December? You're probably wondering why on earth I've decided to buy a 1988 Renault 5 Extra wheelchair van. I'd like to say that it was a rational, sensible decision, because initially it was. But with the benefit of hindsight, it may have been a bit of an impulse thing. Okay, so my housemate and I are going to be moving out of this place in a few months. I'm not sure how that falls with the upload schedule and when you see this video and stuff, but basically, by the middle of 2025, I need to move house. And one of the things I will need to do is get a van so I can move my stuff. And I absolutely hate hiring vans. You're on a time crunch, and it's somebody else's vehicle, so you're scared of damaging it, and there's the insurance, and it's a whole thing. I've done it so many times. I thought, right, this time I'm going to see if I get my own van. And if I can get my own van, I'm not under that time pressure. And theoretically, because two of us are moving to two different locations, because we're not going to house share after this move, it made sense to get one van to cover all of our costs. So we don't have to hire a van twice or try and cram two house moves into one weekend and all the logistics around that. Nightmare stuff. And this little van, on the road, was under £1,000. That's taxed, insured, bought, the lot. And I thought, great, that's fantastic. Because it was going to cost between £250 to £500 each for my housemate and I to move, when you factor in all the various costs. Also, the plan is, I can sell this van once I'm done with it and recoup some costs that way, which would also be brilliant. What I hadn't factored in was the fact that the van was going to overheat and blow its head gasket. So that's given me a little bit extra cost. I've got an MOT to do as well. The MOT runs out on this one on the 17th of December. I'm probably not going to put it through an MOT now until January, just because Christmas. I might not be able to get the head gasket actually done, because I've got to get the heads tested, make sure that it doesn't need a skim, that sort of thing. So, yeah, there's that to consider. Logically, this was a very, very silly thing to do. This has definitely cost me more money than it would have done to hire a van. But you know what? I don't care. Because I actually quite like this. I'd forgotten quite how comfortable Renault 5s are. Like, the seats are nice, the seating position's great. It's a really, really nippy little car. We'll see what it's like when I get it out on the road, like big speeds, but at least for pootling, it seems quite good. I'm quite pleased with it. Yeah, the plan is to sell it, but we'll see. Anyway, this is the initial exciting thing, so I'm probably talking too fast and rambling on a bit, and the editing's going to be a nightmare. But I will keep you updated on this little thing, and hopefully it's not too much of a nightmare. I'm going to see what the housemate makes of it. I don't really know. I don't really know what they're going to think. They won't be on camera. I'm going to respect that, but it'll give them a giggle. Yeah, so this is another silly adventure. It's something for you to follow on the channel. It's something new. New purchases always do well, don't they? And please, please support me. I need help. Not like that. Well, a little bit like that. Check the description. There's links to loads of stuff. There's my website is up here somewhere. There's a Patreon. That would be great. Go over there. You'll get early access to fresh artwork videos, all that kind of stuff. You know the score. Just subscribing to the channel helps, doing some likes, all that kind of business. Videos are Tuesdays at 3, so that's when the next one will be. And I will see you in the next one. What am I doing? What am I doing?